Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. The CZ studios are fired up for you today on a day after Garbage Day. That means it's a Thursday today. Welcome into the CZ studios. Patriot Mobile Command Center microphone fired up for you here. The on-air lights are blinking outside. Greg in Dallas, Texas, how you doing today, my brother? Here we are.
Here we are, and I can smell the weekend.
The weekend is coming. The weekend is coming. Long week next week. Got some travel. Got the NRA convention in Houston with a lot to do between now and then. And I hope to see you there, ladies and gentlemen. If you're there, please make sure to stop by booth 3351. The Armed American Radio booth will be fired up sitting there. And if you come over and say hello, we might even mic you up. My intention is to put some of you on the Sunday Monster Cast by taping some segments with some good fans of the program, which would be a lot of fun to do. We'll be taping, if we're not live, we should be live on Friday. I found out we're not going to be able to be live on Thursday because of travel. But that's okay. We'll be live on Friday. We'll be there all day Saturday. We'll be hopefully live on Friday. If not, you'll still get a quote-unquote live show. It will just be, Greg, a little bit of Memorex from about an hour earlier because we'll tape it for you in advance. We don't want to run the risk of losing connection, so we want to make sure we have those for you. Guys, if you want to watch the program, you can do so right now on Facebook.com/ArmedAmericanRadio, Facebook.com/ArmedAmericanRadio. Please like, share, comment. Join us at Facebook. Join the 80,000-plus people over there. And, Greg, I'll let you do your thing, and we'll get going with John Petrolino, who's rocking and rolling somewhere on a big ship somewhere in the ocean in the world. That's all we know.
Well, how about that?
That might even be all he knows, for all I know. How about that? We're all here.
We're done.
Cue the music. The show's over. John, come back next week. I'll see you at the NRA convention. I know you're listening. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, sure. Other places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. You can also watch us on X at AARMark, or you can head over to the website, armedamericanradio.org or .com. Hit that menu icon and select your watch live or listen live option. If you'd like to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
For all I know, John Petrolino, BearingArms.com. How you doing, my friends? Great to have you with me today.
Mark, how are you, sir? Hello, Patriots out there behind in front of enemy lines. Greetings all.
Greetings all, I say. Greetings all. Let's see if we can get you over there. There we go. Okay, John. So are you out floating around somewhere? What are you doing? Give me the clue.
Today I'm coming to you live from my wife's basement, so that's where I am today. So I'm not I'm not on the ship, thankfully. And
darn, that's too
next
bad.
Week it's a big week.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it's all right though.
Yeah, I wanted to hear you say, "Hey, Mark, yeah, it's a little bit rough out here today."
Oh, good Lord.
Okay, well,
so how are you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing good. Let's just have a wide open conversation that's FCC friendly. You think you and I can have an FCC friendly conversation? We have to try it. We have to do our best. Greg, stay on the dump switch. This is John. Come on.
I'm going to try. This is my second interview of the day, and I might have slipped some stuff out, but that wasn't an FCC-friendly interview, so we're good.
Okay, well, here we have to be. Here we have to be. All right, so you're over at BearingArms.com, and, of course, let's give you the setup. Also, a fellow board member with me over at the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. And, John, I guess what I'll do is I'll start with what the heck is going on in your neck of your wife's basement. That just hit me. Okay. All right. Your wife's basement.
So,
right. what's going on over in Jersey?
In New Jersey.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, things are busy in New Jersey, Mark. I think I told you recently about a new lawsuit that you and I were talking about that we wanted to give some coverage to. So I'm pleased to announce to all of your listeners and friends to the show. There's now a suit in New Jersey court called the John Petrolino versus New Jersey State Police and Trooper X. So I am officially suing the government of New Jersey.
Trooper X. Can we name names here?
So that's why it's Trooper X. So, the background here is I put in, as you know, I'm a big records hound, and I try to do as many equivalent of Freedom of Information Act requests here in New Jersey. They're called Open Public Records Act requests. And I was querying the New Jersey State Police on a bunch of stuff, and we can get into the minutia behind that in a second here. But the Trooper X, the reason he's Trooper X is because the records custodian constantly fails to identify themselves. So whenever I get denials or I'm corresponding with them, they don't sign their name, and by law they're supposed to be signing, who they are, and they don't. So we're suing Trooper X.
So, I find this fascinating on a number of different levels because I love to watch the First Amendment auditor YouTube videos and stuff, And a lot of cops forget that they're required to identify themselves. They forget that they work for you, John. You pay their salary there in New Jersey. And
we do. And that's part of our records law, too. So part of the records law is the records custodian or whoever you're communicating with is supposed to identify themselves. So it even goes beyond the, serial number, name type of thing that you might run into, with your rank and file police officer in the street. Like this is in the statute where, if you're dealing with records. And, as you know, I've done a ton of coverage on this stuff going back to 2024. And this is kind of like the sequel, right? So this is the next best thing from what work we were doing back then on the permit to carry data. If you recall, and the listeners remember, I'll just briefly go over this. New Jersey released their permit to carry dashboard in 2024.
Right.
And with that, if you recall, I uncovered some racial disparities. And this was a topic of my presentation at Gun Rights Policy Conference in 2024. You can check that out at SAP's website or SAP's YouTube page, and you can check that out. But anyhow, what I found was when I crunched the numbers for non-criminal reasons. So this is a subjective standard. It's just a issuing authority saying, this is what I think, this is what I believe. 2-to-1, black people were being denied their permits to carry over white, so more than double the rate. And this is denials not for criminal criteria, Mark. This is just because they didn't want to issue the permits or whatever. But it's not a statutory disqualifier like, a drug addict or a felon or things like that. And subsequent to that, another organization picked up my coverage on this, and they did an independent study that was peer-reviewed. It was published in Harvard, actually, the Harvard's data set over there. And they found when they normalized the numbers, this is statistician stuff, which, you and I were kind of the journalists here just burning leather. The statisticians got involved, and they found that denial rate wasn't double, it was 10 times. So a black person is 10 times more likely to be denied a permit to carry in New Jersey over a white person for subjective standards that go against Bruin. My lawsuit has to do with looking into the number of permits to carry issued to retired police officers. So they're a completely different category, and our dashboard that the Attorney General holds and keeps does not include the number of retired police officers. Now, you would think that with the Law Enforcement, Protection Act, LEOSA, or whatever, they have the carriage law for retired police officers not needing permits to carry. There is that, but in New Jersey, they get extra privileges over the citizens if they do get their retired police officer permits. So I want to drill into that data, and that's exactly when these records requests started to come into play.
It's interesting stuff. I want to ask, relative to the racial disparity that you found, can you tell me, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, it just popped up, I just wrote it down as I'm listening to you. Do we know, are they applying for permits in an abundance over whites, for it to be 10-to-1? I'm trying to be fair here. I want to ask the question because I don't know the answer, but are they applying for permits at a 10-to-1 ratio over whites, and that's why they're being turned down? Could that be, or is it, did you truly find that is purely subjective and it is a racial issue? It appears to be. 30 seconds, John.
So Yep. So that's when the statisticians, when I say they normalize the data, that's them adjusting for the population. So I came up with double, they came up with 10 times. So it's quite the opposite.
Incredible. Guys, we're getting ready to take our first break. We're going to go back to John, who's in his wife's basement today, and we're glad you're here, John. We've got you for 3 more segments. I am going to tell you to buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. The time on the show just flies right by. It just does. It is what it is. The hour will buzz. It'll be gone. So buckle in. John Petrolino. You can find everything that John writes, by the way, over at BearingArms.com, our good friends at BearingArms.com. If you just Google his name or whatever search engine you use, you'll find him at Bearing Arms. And we're going to talk with him about some of his other stories over the course of the next 3 segments as well. We'll be back with John Petrolino from BearingArms.com and the CCR KB8 right after this. Don't go away. Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, guys, you can do that. You can join the National Rifle Association at nra.org/AAR if you so choose, or just join. It's $35 for a year. You're going to be hearing a lot about the National Rifle Association over the course of the next 10 days because, well, we're traveling out there next week to Houston, and it's going to be a huge show. There's no question. I can't wait to see how many people show up, and I hope you do. And if you do, please stop by our booth, and it is booth 3351. That's the Armed American Radio booth. Got a big 8x10 booth there for you over on Voices of the 2A on Media Row, so make sure to stop by and say hello. John Petrolino will be there also, as will many, many others. We'll talk more about that this week, but make sure to join the NRA if you're not a member and show up, meet us there. We might even mic you up if you make it over that way. We appreciate everything that you do, and if we can put you on the Monstercast, we're certainly going to do that when we tape some of those episodes. You can find the NRA and all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.com. John Petrolino, welcome back to the show, my brother. It is always a pleasure to have you here. It's always fun. And coming to us live from your wife's basement. It's great to have you back, John.
It's great to be with you, Mark. I really appreciate it. So that's what I got going on. The matter is that it's not so much as so many, requests. It's when they normalize those numbers. So, like I said, it was undercut. When I said it was double, it's actually 10 times. So that's what the statisticians do, right? So after we looked at all of that data, I said to myself, towards the end of and beginning, well, maybe the middle of last year, I started wanting to look into the retired police officer numbers. And I just figured I'd gradually put my toe into the water here and say, how many retired police officer permits are issued? I think that that's a reasonable request just to get the number of them. So I put in an Open Public Records Act request just for getting that information. How many retired police officer permits are currently out there in the state of New Jersey? And, of course, the New Jersey State Police denied that request. They said it was overbroad, it was improper, and it's not a record that they hold.
Come on.
Yeah.
What are they
And they're saying
hiding?
it's not
Come
a
on.
record. Yeah, it's overbroad, and they also were claiming that these firearms records aren't subject to information requests, which on one hand they're kind of not, but on the other hand they are, because I'm not asking for specifics. Like, I don't want to know if Mark Walters, retired police officer, he himself specifically has a permit to carry. I want to know how many of these permits are out there to all of the, retired police officers. So there's no reason why they should be obscuring the information. And then, an interesting side note here is, in all my years of doing this, putting out records requests, not one single time has the New Jersey State Police acquiesced or fulfilled a single one of my records requests. And, every time I put in for anything at all with them, they say that it's overbroad, it's improper.
Of course they do.
Yeah, and that's not a record that we should be having out there, and it's not subject to that. And, even
John, why?
New Jersey.
Why don't they want it out there? Why? I mean, these guys, I'm sure some of the cops that are telling you that have had the following comments with law-abiding people. If you don't have anything to hide, then why don't you want me to take a look? I guess that doesn't hold true for them, huh?
There is that, and they're kind of, so is there preferential treatment? Is there a double standard here?
Of course.
I will say, on social media, most of the commentary, like, you can tell who does what for kind of a living based on some of their comments that they were giving me on on these posts, because there was people that were absolutely apoplectic about it. And I'm like, I don't understand what's the big deal. And I got a lot of, it's none of your business how many police officers have permits, and the typical chest beating shall not be infringed crowd weighed in as well. But the fact of the matter is, this New Jersey State Police just sits on the info, doesn't share it. And, to his credit, former Attorney General Matthew Platkin, who had, no real love for me, I don't believe, his office fulfilled, plenty of records requests that I made over the years, if they deemed that they were appropriate. Sure, were there times that I thought, that I was wrongfully denied. Sure, but you can't, fight every single battle, right?
Well, but
with
you
the
can
state
try.
Police, yeah, well, yeah. So here we are. This is where we are now. So my second request to the New Jersey State Police was, well, if they're not going to give me a record of the number, I said they must have a record of how much money that they've taken in for, permits to carry for these retired officers. So that's got to be a record that they could give me. And then the same thing, they said, it's overbroad, it's improper.
Whoa, hold on.
Not a record.
How much money did you take in is overbroad?
That's what they said.
Okay, so if it's
improper and
$50,
overbroad.
let's just say it's $50, and let's say there's 10,000 officers. What's overbroad about that math?
Well, exactly. And saying that my request itself is too onerous, that it's an overbroad request, that I'm asking for too much information. Like actually asking for, in both instances, I'm technically asking for just one number. I want to know the number, how many, or how much. If they told me how much money they collected, I could have calculated it.
Sure.
But they said no. They denied me. So we went in again. Now, the next request that we put in was a lot more specific and a lot more targeted. And I said, I want every single application that they've done, redact all of the information about the name and the address, but I want to know male, female, I want to know their race, I want to know their jurisdiction, and I want to know, if they were denied or if they were approved. And I want all of that redacted. But in lieu of that, we're happy to, accept tabulated results. Like if you want to give us the statistics on this, I'm happy to take just the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to give me the actual records, which is what we're requesting. And they did the same thing. They denied me. They said it was improper. It was overbroad. So then I wrote the records custodian, an email, and I said, hey, what's the deal with this denial? I said, there's nothing really overbroad about this. I said, I'd like to, understand why you keep denying these requests. And the long story short on that, denial email was basically they said, you're denied, and if you want to, you can sue us. So, I just said, okay, well, I guess this is where we are.
Well, that's where we are, and that's exactly what you did, and good for you. I do have a couple more questions along those lines before we move on to some other issues with you. But real quick before we go to the break, is it the state police in New Jersey the only permit issuing authority for a CCW?
So I'm going to the state police for the records because this is the guys that would be the custodian of that.
Okay, when we come back, we'll dig a little bit deeper. There's a method to my madness. There's a reason I'm asking that question, and I'll explain when we come back. We're talking with John Petrolino from BearingArms.com. John Petrolino from BearingArms.com. John is also a proud member of the board of directors with me at the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Yeah. And we will be back with John right after this break. Don't go away. Buckle in, guys. It's going to fly. Indeed. Welcome back to the show. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day here in the CZ studios, Monday through Friday. This is a Patriot Mobile activated phone, ladies and gentlemen. And I just had some conversations with the Patriot Mobile folks today. They will be visiting with me at the booth at the NRA convention. And you know who will not be there? Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile will not be visiting with me at the booth because they won't be there because they do not support your right to keep and bear arms. But Patriot Mobile does. So support them. And it's great because Patriot uses all their towers and gives you better service than they can provide you. And it's Patriot Mobile, and they support the right to bear arms. It's right on the front of the website. Don't take my word for it. Just go there and check it out. PatriotMobile.com/AAR. And I'm sure Scott and hopefully some of the rest of them will be there. Well, there'll be a bunch there, so we'll see who we mic up. But that will be happening next week at the National Rifle Association meetings. You can find Patriot Mobile and all of our great partners, including Bud's Gun Shop and the rest, at armedamericanradio.com. We would hope that you would go there and do that. And if you, Greg, please ask me. Now's a good time to say. I'll tell you right now. Ask me how many cups of Blackout coffee I had to start my day today.
Mark, how many cups of Blackout coffee did you have to start your day?
Guess.
I'd say 3 large ones.
2. I'm holding up 2 fingers, but you're not watching. It's 2.
No, I'm not.
I had 2, and one of them was just about an hour ago. So, guys, Blackout Coffee is the real deal. Make sure to check them out, blackoutcoffee.com, again, /AAR. And if you are watching on your devices or televisions, you can see that QR code right up there in the corner above me. That is a Blackout Coffee QR code. Just point your camera at that and have at it. And get some. Have it delivered to you. I actually have another bag delivering today. I found out. I didn't realize I had 3. So that's great because I run out of it so often. Blackoutcoffee.com. John Petrolino, welcome back, brother. BearingArms.com. Let's keep this thing going. I have a couple questions. Is it the, and correct me, I should know the answer to this, and I'm sure I probably do somewhere back in my skull, buried in there somewhere, John, because I know we've talked about this in the past. But if I go to, I'll give you a real life example. When I was a sophomore in high school, I lived in Wayne, New Jersey. Okay, and I believe that's where? Passaic County, I think? Passaic? Somewhere around there.
I believe so. Yeah, if somewhere around there.
So if I lived in Wayne, New Jersey today, and I wanted to get a concealed carry permit in the state of New Jersey, what process would I go through living there?
So you need, and this is actually very interesting. I'm glad you brought it up. Because to get a permit to carry, you need to have a firearms ID card first. And do you know what the requirements for a permit to carry are in comparison to a firearms ID card?
Give us a comparison, please.
They're statutorily, as far as the disqualifiers, they're exactly the same. So the only thing that's different is you have to get your training and, different references in order for your permit to carry. But as far as the disqualifiers, they're exactly the same. So if you're going to your local jurisdiction who issued you your FID card and presumably pistol purchaser permits, which those permits also have the same exact statutory disqualifiers, if you're going to get a permit to carry, you shouldn't be denied for a permit to carry at all,
right?
Unless you became a criminal between, the
getting
time
your
that
FOID
you got
card
your
and
FID
getting
card.
your permit. Oh, okay. So if I'm in Passaic County, do I go to the sheriff?
You go to your local jurisdiction. So if you're in a municipality that's incorporated, like I have a police department in my town, I go to my police department and I apply for all of that through them. But it's all online now. Like you do an online portal. Now, if you're in an unincorporated area, so if you're a town that does not have a police department, you would go to state police barracks.
State police. Okay.
Yep. And if you're like a mayor or maybe even if you're serving on the council, I don't really know exactly who. I know if you're the mayor of your town, you have to go also to the state police barracks. I think the council members as well. They don't want you going to the police chief. So that's actually interesting that they did build that into the law for some checks and balances. So you're going to your local jurisdiction, but the New Jersey State Police should be the custodian of all of this because you get issued an SBI number. It's this State Bureau of Investigation number. And it's the same number, I believe. Yeah, it's the same number that a criminal would get. Like you have this number, your SBI number. So if you're, a firearms owner in the state of New Jersey, you get your FID card, and then you move on and you get pistol purchaser permits, which you need a different permit for every handgun that you buy. You get this SBI number to identify you, and it's all tied together. So the fact that they even make you carry a physical permit to carry or FID card with you is absurd, because you've got a number, so it's in the system. You can't sit here and tell me that it can't be accessed anywhere. Of course they can access it. Anyhow, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, the reason I ask is, does the sheriff have anything to do with it?
No, not in New Jersey. The sheriffs aren't involved, and I don't know if that would be better or worse. Well,
there was a method to that. The reason I asked that is my sister dated a guy who, in high school, who was a real jerk, and I've mentioned his name on the program today, but I don't feel like giving him any airtime today. He later became the sheriff of Passaic County, and he made a big name for himself with the DEA. He helped bring down the Medellin cartel. He's got quite the storied career. Wrote a book about it. There was talk about a movie, and I think part of it was made into a movie. And he later left, disgraced, and went down to Louisiana and took over some policing there. He was not very highly thought of down there. I guess down in Louisiana, they didn't like their New Jersey law enforcement stench. So maybe they sent him back. I don't know. But the guy was a real ass. I'll tell you that, because I knew him in high school. And he was just a punk and a thug. And I knew his family. He was also a Democrat, good Democrat, ran as a Democrat, was anti-gun as all get out, but everybody around him had their permits. It's just funny how that works. Okay for me, not for thee. So I don't feel like naming him right now. I'll tell you privately off air, but anyway, I'll just kind of leave it at that. That was my own personal opinion of the guy. You can look it up, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Go back into the 70s, and you can find out. Well, I guess it would be the 80s and 90s. But he did have a very storied career, and hats off to him for what he did during his career. But he was just a real ass when he was a young kid. Okay, so we don't have to deal with any of that. The problem is they've taken in gobs and gobs and gobs of money in New Jersey and then denied people their permits, and nobody gets that money back. They keep that money. They just rubber stamp and deny you. So what progress are we making today? Now, because you're all over this stuff, there are lawsuits flying. There's lawsuits on, let's go one of your latest ones over here. Let's go to one of your latest. Let's see, golly, you've got so many things to pick from here. Which one was it I wanted to ask you about? Oh, the Hollow Point suit, the bullets. And it's interesting. Sure. You ever watch Fridays with Frank Sloop, the Arizona sheriff's deputy out there that's all over YouTube? Got a big, huge following.
Yeah, I've caught a couple of his videos. Yeah, they're very interesting, actually. Yeah,
they are. And in one of those videos, he had somebody tell them that in Arizona today, I was watching it, he had a gun. And he said, that's fine. He said, just, keep your hands where I can see them. Everybody in Arizona's got guns. And he was down in the corner kind of narrating his own video. And where the gun was, he asked the kid, he says, let me just retrieve the gun. And he pulls the gun. It was a 1911. And he noticed that the kid was carrying ball ammo. And I couldn't help but immediately default to, that's what every civilian in New Jersey has to carry by law. And Frank Sloop is saying, look, this is Arizona. We carry hollow points. Hollow points are designed to do X, 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 and X. Never, ever, ever carry target ammo in your gun. Carry what we carry, which is good hollow point ammunition. And I thought about you being on the show today, and I couldn't wait to go there because you wrote about New Jersey group filing for summary judgment in the hollow point suit. Now, we're getting ready to take our final break. When we come back, let's go to that article that you wrote back on March 13th, and I'll give you the title of it again, ladies and gentlemen. New Jersey group files for summary judgment in hollow point suit, because you may not know this, particularly if you're with some of the new affiliates carrying the Daily Show. Welcome in, by the way. You can't buy hollow point ammunition in New Jersey as a civilian. What? Yeah, that's true. It's nuts. Well, it's run by Democrats and they hate you. You're lucky to have a gun. As far as they're concerned, we'll be right back with John.
The Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at Attorneys on Retainer.
VCDL.
Yes, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching on your screens, a few minutes ago, a couple segments ago, you saw me reach in. I was reaching in and grab my wallet because in my wallet, I knew this rejoin was coming up, is my Attorneys on Retainer card. I wanted to pull that out because it sits in my wallet every day unless I'm on air, and I pull it out and show it to you every day. But this is a lawyer in my pocket. And guys, they're now doing pro bono work if you are charged for a regulatory violation of, for example, having a firearm somewhere where you weren't supposed to have it, or a gun you weren't supposed to have, etc. And you can find all of it at attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. They explain that pro bono. That means they're going to defend you for free. And it's only $37 a month. And God forbid you get charged with a crime, $37 a month. As far as I'm concerned, if you know anything about attorneys, and John Petrolino does, they're not free. So $37 a month is basically pro bono anyway. Look at it as, well, I paid, close to $500 for the year just to have the card. My attorneys are free. Guys, however you have to convince yourself to do this, just get this card in your wallet, attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. And I want to give a huge shout out as well to Virginia Citizens Defense League, who we are partnered up with. Guys, we are all Virginians right now, and VCDL needs our help. There is strength in numbers. I did an amazing interview with Phil Van Cleve yesterday. If you missed it, of course, he's the president of the Virginia Citizens Defense League. If you missed it, please go back and listen to the podcast. Subscribe. You should be subscribing to Armed American Radio podcast anyway, so you never miss an episode. Or you can go back and watch the show. It's out there for you on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere else. And please subscribe at those locations. If you're watching on YouTube in particular, please subscribe to us over there. Help us take our social media back into the hundreds of you who've done it. Well over 100,000 views last month. The numbers are growing, and we need your help to continue to grow that. But VCDL, guys, there is strength in numbers. It's $25 for an annual membership. You do not need to live in Virginia. I've been a longtime member of VCDL. You should be right now, too. And the reason is you can sign petitions, you can get involved, and it's $25 for a year. Virginia is in a world of hurt right now, a world of hurt. And as we were talking about with Phil yesterday, this cancer that occurred in Virginia seemingly overnight is going to spread unless we stop it there. And the front line of that is VCDL. If you can join us, we would appreciate it. VCDL.org. Join us, please. Help us out over there. It is only $25, and that gets you involved with everything they're doing and keeps you up on what's happening in Virginia, because what is happening in Virginia right now is the playbook that they want for you at the federal level. So please pay attention to this, and it's as simple as helping out by joining VCDL. It's really easy to do, VCDL.org. Please do so. John Petrolino, welcome back, my brother. It's always fun to have you here. Let's go to the hollow points, bro. Why can't I carry the most effective ammo in New Jersey, but the cops can? Why can't I? Why am I relegated to ball ammo? Which, by the way, if we wanted to get into the ballistics of all of that, we could really do some damage, but we don't have time. Why can't I carry that ammo that even Frank Sloop, the deputy in Arizona, was saying, guys, this is the ammo you need to carry because it's designed to stop the threat, unlike ball ammo? Why, John, why?
I think this goes back and harkens to the 1980s and to the 1990s when they had the so-called cop killer bullets rhetoric. And that was like a big thing in New York and, like the subway walls and all this other
the racist bullets
going on.
You're talking about the and I've got 3 original boxes in mint condition. We're talking about the Black Talons from Winchester, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. So this is where that comes from back in that era. And somebody in the Telegram chat, they asked about what happens if you are, convicted of this. Like, what's the penalty for unlawful possession? Which we could get into in a second. But the actual crime is it's a 4th-degree crime, which means it's a felony, a quote-unquote low-level felony in New Jersey.
Okay.
But you're talking about 18 months in prison and a fine of up to $10,000 per bullet, okay? That's per bullet. So that's a charge for every bullet, not per cartridge. So I don't want people to think I'm a dummy here. I know that there's cartridges and there's bullets. If you have just the bullet, That's what's illegal. So that's a felony possessory charge. So now, where can you have hollow point bullets outside of, what are the exemptions for civilians? Because the police and retired police officers, if they have the right credentials, can have hollow point bullets, of course. Where can you have it as a civilian? And I'm not a lawyer, folks, so you want to look this up yourself. But you can have them in your home. You can have them at the range. You could take them from the place that you purchased them to your house to the range, and from your house to the range as well, and the range to your house. And interestingly enough, you cannot take them from a house that you're living in. If you're moving and you're moving to another home, there's no exemption in the law that actually covers you to transport them from house to house. Like, handgun possession in New Jersey is regulated almost exactly the same way, except you're actually allowed to move with your handguns if you don't have a permit to carry.
Oh, thanks for that, guys. Thanks for letting me do that. Wow.
Hollow point bullets, there's no exemption in the law. So literally, when I was moving from one county to another in New Jersey, I was lucky enough to have access to a range, that I was friendly with. And I brought all my hollow point ammunition directly from my home to that range in a locked box and put it in a locker. And then after all the ink was dry on the new house and I moved into my new house, I went back to that range and went to the locker and got my ammunition.
Good Lord.
That's how absurd it is. And did I have to do that? By law, yes, I did. Was it likely that I would get tripped up and charged on something like this? And well, you tell me. You know how it goes when you have bad luck. That's the type of stuff that happens to people.
That's the day your car gets hit in a parking lot or something. I mean, that's the day the cop comes because you've been involved in an accident that's not even your fault, in a fender bender, and the cop says, by the way, do you have any guns in the car? Do you mind if I take a look at the car? Oh, stop resisting. This nonsense.
That happened to me.
Oh, John.
That happened to me on the way to the range. I had a bag full of guns in the back of the car. I wasn't breaking any laws. I was following the law, but I was like, okay, the quicker the police are gone, the happier I'll be, so that I get home with these firearms, and I had to go. I skipped the range date too, so that was the biggest bummer.
Oh my gosh, John, we're at the end of the hour. Now you and I are going to be together. You have a booth over there, kind of close to me, at the Media Row. You'll be there in Houston next week, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. I will be there those 3 days as well. So, guys, come say hello to John and I, won't you please? I've known John a long time. He's a great guy, and as you know from listening to him, he's an awful lot of fun. Come talk to us. Shake our paws if you're going to be at the National Rifle Association. John, I'm going to leave it with BearingArms.com. Is that good enough for you right there? BearingArms.com, right?
That's good right there.
Okay, guys.
3450 is my booth.
3450, and I'm in, what am I in, 3351, something like that. We're going to be like kind of catty corner from each other. You won't miss us, I promise. We're the two loudest guys there. You will not miss us. So make sure to stop and see us. John Petrolino, BearingArms.com. Thank you, brother. We love you for everything that you do. Great work that you're doing, by the way. You're doing God's work. Keep the fight up in New Jersey and keep suing who you have to sue. You know the cavalry's behind you, brother. It always is. Guys, we're going to wake up tomorrow and do it on a Friday again because they don't want us having these conversations. That's why we do it. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow.